Welcome back to another AP video. Today we're going to be looking at a particular skill that we use on DBQs or document-based questions called the outside detail, or a detail that's in historical situation. Okay, what the heck does that mean? So let's start off with this. Have you ever wondered why you do particular types of things? Now, you might look at that and just say, well, it's kind of obvious. Either there was a purpose behind it, or I was thinking about doing something, or let's just be honest, it's just kind of an accident, right? But we kind of know that when we make decisions to do things, we're often influenced by events that have happened right outside at our time period. Just think about for a second the following questions. When you've made a decision to do something in your life, do you oftentimes wonder, what made me do that specific decision? What triggered my emotions? Would I have acted differently if another situation had happened? Okay, what kind of situations am I talking about here? I mean, just think about it for a moment. When you've done actions in your life, were you triggered because you met a new friend, because a new sibling was born into your family? Maybe it was your birthday and that got you to do something. Or remember the day that you got into Loyola High School. How did that kind of influence the actions that you did? The point is this. The point is when we make decisions, we are oftentimes influenced by very concrete and specific events that happen outside of ourselves. Okay, so we've learned about two types of context that are important to history. You probably remember contextualization. Now I'm teaching you something called historical situation, or the outside detail. Well, what's the difference between the two? When we talk about historical context, we're talking about broad movements that take place over a long period of time. Think of the Industrial Revolution, the Enlightenment, scientific revolution, or the civil rights movement. These are broad movements that influence actions that take place over time. Historical situation or outside detail is about a specific concrete event. It's about something that happened at the time period that really influenced people's decisions. Some examples. 9/11 would be a good example, or COVID, what we just went through, or Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Okay, so as usual, being the nerd that I am, I've got to get back to Star Wars, right? When we think about Star Wars, we can see both historical context and historical situation happening. Historical context, we talked about this before. When people went in 1976 to see that first movie, they got historical context, meaning they got that scroll that came down, that crawl, that talked about all the big events that had happened over a long period of time that lead into the movie. But we can also see historical situation. Think of the movie that everybody was looking forward to seeing back during the early 2000s, that third movie, The Revenge of the Sith. How does Anakin Skywalker actually become Darth Vader? I know, spoilers, right? Well, we kind of know what happens, right? Anakin Skywalker is scared that his wife, Padme, is going to die in childbirth. And that leads him into defending the dark side, defending Emperor Palpatine so that he can save Padme. It's that specific event, his dream about Padme dying in childbirth, that gets him to act the way that he did, that eventually leads him to becoming Darth Vader. That's historical situation. So how do we do this when it comes to the essay? Where do you place something like this? Remember that contextualization goes in your introduction. 3 big issues, long period tells us what's going on. Historical situation, though, is going to be a specific event. So that specific event, you want to frame the documents that you are going to analyze in your DBQ. Where do you put that? Well, you can put it right before the document, or you can put it right after the document. Oftentimes, where I like to put my historical situation or example is the final sentence of a body paragraph. That allows me to frame the documents and then kind of transition into the next paragraph. Okay, let's do some examples. We're going to now look at an example you would use in AP US history. Imagine you have a document from George Washington cautioning the American nation to stay out of long-term alliances, his farewell address about neutrality. What would a historical situation look like there? So, what would a historical situation look like in this case for George Washington? The new American nation was being forced by both French and British into a quasi-war in the Caribbean. Okay, there's your historical situation. This prompted President Washington to warn, okay, that would be the beginning of your document on his farewell address. Note how the historical situation explains the context and transitions into the cause-effect relationship with the document. Okay, so what are our takeaways as we leave on this issue of historical situation or outside detail? Remember, there are two different types of context. There's contextualization, those long-term contextual issues in your introductory paragraph. Historical situation is a specific event that influenced a document. Second big takeaway that I want you to think about. Remember that the whole point of historical situation or a concrete detail is to explain the influence on a document. That's why it's in a DBQ. And last off, remember that the purpose about why we're doing this is to show how specific events caused or had an influence on authors as they wrote documents. Okay, good luck on your DBQ. See you in class.